Welcome to Legally Yes, where we break down the biggest celebrity legal cases of the week with certified family law specialist and senior attorney Rachel Bennett. All right, let's get right into it. Actor Timothy Busfield was indicted on 4 child sex abuse charges in New Mexico. His attorney Larry Stein calls the case fundamentally unsound and vows to fight all charges, while Busfield denies wrongdoing. The DA's office says the case is serious and will proceed to trial, with Busfield facing up to 15 years if convicted. So Rachel, do grand jury indictments really mean a case is strong, or can someone be indicted even if the evidence is weak?
A grand jury indictment does not necessarily mean that the case is strong. It just means the prosecutors cleared a very low bar in the initial stages of the case. The grand jury only has to find probable cause, meaning there's reasonable evidence a crime was committed and that the accused likely committed it. This is far below a beyond a reasonable doubt standard, and that's what would ultimately be required for them to convict at trial. And here's what people often don't realize about grand jury indictments. The prosecutor presents their evidence, but the defense isn't in the room, and the rules of evidence are fairly loose. So yes, someone can absolutely be indicted even if the case has its weaknesses.
So what does the prosecution have to prove in a child sexual abuse case, and how can a lawyer defend someone if the evidence isn't solid?
He's being charged with criminal sexual contact with a child. These are felony charges, and the prosecution has to prove that he inappropriately touched a child under the age of 13. If the evidence isn't solid, the defense focuses on figuring out where are the gaps. So was there corroborating evidence? Are there inconsistencies in statements? Is there any physical evidence? Are there issues with how the investigators conducted interviews? When we're dealing with victims that are very young children, these can be really tricky charges for prosecutors to navigate, because children aren't always able to articulate what happened to them, and they can be easily influenced by those around them.
All right, moving on. A former Los Angeles County employee has been charged with trying to scam Savannah Guthrie's family amid the search for her missing mother. Authorities say the suspect allegedly sent a fake ransom message after following coverage of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Officials stress there's no connection to the case itself, but warn anyone exploiting the family's pain will be held accountable. So Rachel, what federal charges could someone face for sending a fake ransom demand in a missing person case, even if there's no actual kidnapping involved?
Even if there was never a real kidnapping, sending a fake ransom note or ransom demand is absolutely a crime. Under federal law, it's illegal to transmit a ransom demand or extortion threat across state lines, which basically means by phone, email, text, social media, any of the above. So if someone sends a message saying, pay me or your loved one is going to be harmed, even when they know that that's not true, that can still qualify as extortion or interstate threatening communications, and that can carry significant prison time. The bottom line on this is exploiting a family's fear during a crisis like this isn't just cruel, it's a serious criminal offense, even if it was just a ruse.
Could Savannah's family have any civil legal options against someone who attempts to exploit their situation for financial gain, separate from this criminal case?
Yeah, the family would absolutely have a civil case here, separate from whatever the government decides to prosecute. If someone sent a fake ransom demand trying to extract money, that could form the basis of a civil fraud claim. And even if no money was actually paid, the attempt itself can sometimes support damages, especially if it caused some kind of measurable harm. There's also a strong argument for intentional infliction of emotional distress here. Exploiting a family in a situation like this is the exact kind of extreme and outrageous conduct that courts look for in cases like that. I would say the key difference here is criminal court's always about punishment. Civil court is about compensation. So even if this defendant faces prison time, the family could still pursue their own lawsuit in the civil court.
All right, Rachel, thank you for your insight as always. That is it for this week's episode of Legally Yes.